Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing the cards I made using Pink & Main's April 2021 Crafty Courtyard kit. The theme is In the Garden. As I'm recording this voiceover, the kit is still available, but it is a monthly kit, so quantities are always limited. I will have a link provided in the description box if you are interested in purchasing this kit or any of the other products I use in this video. Let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I will be making 2 of each card, but only showing the process of assembling one. I'm using a card sketch from MFT. This is number 535. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. For this first card, I'm using this beautiful plaid paper for the background, added a strip of teal polka dot paper. Then I'll add some of this lovely floral paper for that smaller rectangle piece. The 3 pattern papers on this card are my favorite in the whole collection. The colors look so pretty together. I'll use some of the solid orange cardstock for this rectangle that goes behind that floral paper. I did add some scrap pieces of cardstock to keep it level since it goes over that polka dot paper. Then I'll adhere the floral paper on top. And I am following this sketch fairly closely. For the sentiment, I've already stamped this out. This is Live Life in Full Bloom. And I did want to mention all of the colored ink I'm using is from Catherine Pooler. And these 4 colors match perfectly with the paper collection. If you didn't catch the names, I'm using Daydream, Mandarin Spice, Sauna, and Green Tea. And I do end up using a pink later on since I couldn't resist making at least one card with pink. To finish off the card, I'll add a few of the sequins that are included in the kit. The colors are beautiful and they match perfectly with the paper collection. For this card, I'm only using orange, and there's 2 different sizes. I'll put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 in the lower right-hand corner. I'm using an embellishment wand to pick up those sequins, add a drop of Barely Art glue, and then adhere the sequins in place. And I like to use the opposite end of the embellishment wand to push the sequins down. That way I'm not getting glue all over my fingers. So one final sequin. And there is my finished card. And I did make 2 using this sketch. I just love these colors. I think this is one of my favorite cards from the whole set. But do let me know which card is your favorite. Now moving on to card design number 2, I'm using a sketch from OWH. This is number 256. I have this fun green pattern paper for the background that has white lines that look like they're hand drawn all over it. I'll layer that on a scalloped rectangle die cut, and this is from Pink & Main. For that strip that goes across the card, I use some of the glitter tape that's included in the kit. Put my card front onto a card base. And for this card, I will have a fairly wide border of that white card base showing. I think it worked out well with the green. For the image, I'm using several of the stamps that are included in the kit. And I love that there's no coloring required for these, just some really pretty ink colors. So I've already stamped out the pot, then I stamped the leaves and the stem, and now I'll add the flower. And I'm using all those Catherine Pooler inks that I showed earlier. Super simple. I didn't even need to use my mini Misty for this since the Catherine Pooler ink stamps so nicely. I'll layer that image on some teal cardstock, put liquid adhesive on the back, and adhere it to the card. And I am following this sketch fairly closely. I won't be adding that circle element. Instead, for the sentiment, I stamp this on some white cardstock, cut a fishtail on the right-hand side, layer it on some of the green cardstock. I'll just use my scissors to trim that layer. And generally, my cardstock layers are an additional 1/8 of an inch to the measurements listed on the sketches. I will add a small scrap piece of cardstock to the left-hand side where it goes off of that scalloped rectangle, and then adhere it to the upper left-hand corner of the card. Finishing touch, add some more of the sequins, this time in the green color. I'll put 2 of them under the sentiment, 1 to the left of the image and 2 in the lower right hand corner. If you're new to my channel, I love using pattern paper. I'm not big with some of the fancy techniques, and I also don't color images very often. So stamp sets like this, where they're solid and you just need some fun colored ink, this is perfect for me. I also love to use lots of sentiments on my card. So if there's big, bold sentiments, those are a lot of fun as well. I also love making multiples of the same card. Since Pink and Main includes a full 24 sheet paper pad, it's easy to make 2 of each card, at least at the beginning. Once you get down to the scraps, it does get a little harder. Now moving on to card design number 3. This sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. It's number 317. Now this sketch is designed for a square card. I rarely ever make square cards, so I did add measurements for an A2 size card instead, and this will be a vertical card. I have some polka dot paper for that smaller rectangle piece, rounded the corners using my corner chomper. I did the 1/4 of an inch size corner. For the strip that goes behind this piece, I'm using some solid orange cardstock. I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it to the front of the card. I'm using this fun honeycomb design for that background. I'll layer everything on the blue cardstock. The kit does include several sheets of colored cardstock, but since I add a lot of layers to my cards, I will bring in some additional cardstock. Occasionally, Pink and Main does sell additional cardstock bundles to coordinate with the kits. For the sentiment, I've already stamped this out. Where flowers bloom, so does hope. I've also stamped out several of the images and used the coordinating dies to cut them out. So I have the watering can and the little bit of water coming out, the stem and the leaves, and one of the flowers. And I'll be tucking that flower underneath the right side of the sentiment. So I'll get that flower attached first. And then I'll add some scrap cardstock behind the sentiment where it goes over the little stem of the flower. Otherwise, there'll be that bump on the right-hand side underneath that sentiment. So I'll glue that in place. And then for the watering can and the little bit of water, I will pop these up using some thin foam squares. This is my favorite brand of foam dimension. It comes with 2 different sizes and they're easy to cut, so you can have even smaller pieces. So once I get good coverage so there isn't an area that's going to sag, I'll remove the release paper and then I'll hold it up to the card. I want to make sure it looks like that water is going to sprinkle down onto the flower. And then I can press it down in place. To finish up the card, I'll use some of the glitter enamel dots that are included in the kit. I'm using the orange color. Put 3 of them in the lower left-hand corner and 2 in the upper right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. Now moving on to card design number 4. The card sketch is from OWH, it's number 86. I selected another fun plaid paper for the background and also yellow polka dot paper for this smaller rectangle piece. Most of Pink and Main's paper collections include plaids and polka dots, which make them very versatile. You could use them for any card occasion. So I'll layer this piece on some teal cardstock. And for this card, I am leaving a 1/4 of an inch for that matted layer. Then I'll put my card front onto a card base. I love the colors in this collection. They're perfect for masculine or feminine cards. Just depends on what else you add to the front of the card. For the sentiment on the card, I used the die that's included in the kit. The sentiment is, "There is always hope." I cut it out of that same teal cardstock and put a light blue paper behind it so you could see the letters. And just adhered it to the card, following this sketch fairly closely. Then I stamped out several of the flowers and some leaves. And I used the coordinating dies that are included in the kit to cut out all of the images. I'll lay these out on top of the sentiment and start gluing them in place. For the larger flower in the center, I will be popping that up using some thin foam squares, but all the other pieces I'll be gluing down with some liquid adhesive. And I did speed this portion up quite a bit just while I'm gluing everything in place. Put the leaves behind the flowers first, add those outside flowers, then finally can add the larger flower in the center. For a finishing touch, I'll add a small banner in the upper right-hand corner. This is one of Pink & Main's banner dies. I just trimmed it down. I'll also add a few of the glitter enamel dots. I'll add a couple to the right of the flowers and one in the lower left-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. Now moving on to card design number 5. I'm using a card sketch from MFT. This is number 523. This is a fun sketch if you just have some small pattern paper scraps left over. You could use 4 different pattern papers, but I like to do 2 and have them in the same pattern in the opposite corner. I'm using the green gingham for that smaller square piece and the yellow floral paper for the larger rectangle design. Layer all of this on some green cardstock, and since I really want the focus to be on the pattern paper, I decided for the background piece to just use some more solid cardstock. I'll add this green piece onto the yellow cardstock, and since overall this is a simple design, to add a little extra shine, I'll be layering this yellow cardstock on some gold mirror cardstock. And I did cut out the center, and I'll be using that centerpiece on a later card in this video. I'll fill in that gap with some scrap cardstock just so there isn't that noticeable dent in the front of the card. Put my card front onto a card base, leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I've already stamped out the sentiment. This is where flowers bloom, so does hope. I'll cut a fishtail on the left-hand side, layer it on some green cardstock. And I did misstamp it, so I flipped over that paper and restamped it again. No point of wasting that piece of cardstock. Since the ink doesn't show through, it works out just fine. I'll add some scrap pieces of cardstock to the very right-hand side of the sentiment just to keep it level. And then use some liquid adhesive to adhere it to the card. And for a final finishing touch, I'll add some more of the sequins, this time just the yellow color. I'll put 3 in the upper left-hand corner and 2 in the lower right-hand corner. The green sequins would have had more contrast against that background, but I really wanted them to blend in, so I decided to go with the yellow this time. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this sketch. I easily could have made at least 4 or 6 of the same card with that pattern paper. I was trying to just do 2 of each this time. So moving on to card design number 6, I'm using the beautiful Rose Garden embossing folder that's included in the kit. I used some white shimmer cardstock for that piece. I'll be layering this on some teal cardstock. Then using that same color cardstock, I cut the thin strip to go across the card. That way it can anchor the image and sentiment. I did put some ATG tape on the back, but with the embossing folder, there's a lot of areas where the adhesive doesn't stick to. So adding a little bit of liquid adhesive as well will ensure that it's not going to fall off of that background piece. Put my card front onto a card base. Since most of the background is white, I don't want to have any of that white card base showing. I've already stamped out this cute polka dot rain boot in the Daydream color. I'll layer this piece on that same teal cardstock. And then add some liquid adhesive to the back and adhere it to the left-hand side of the card. I still want plenty of those roses to be showing on the background. And then to add another pop of color, I stamped out a flower in some of the leaves. So this time I wanted to add just a little bit of pink. I think pink and teal look so pretty together. I'll adhere the leaves down first. And for the flower, I did add some thin foam squares to the back, or just one thin foam square, and then put it on the top of the boot. For the sentiment, I've already stamped and trimmed this out. This is Live Life in Full Bloom. And I'll adhere it to the right of the image. For finishing touch, I'm using some of the glitter enamel dots. These were not included in this kit. It was from a previous kit. I don't remember which one it is, but Pink & Main sells several of their glitter enamel dots individually. So there is the finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Now moving on to my final card design. This is number 7. I have some more fun plaid paper for the background. And using the opposite side of this plaid paper, I have that strip of green polka dot paper, and I just adhered it to the lower portion of the card. I'll layer this panel on some orange cardstock, add my card front to a card base, then I can start working on the image and sentiment. On the earlier card where I had the gold mirror cardstock, I cut a scalloped rectangle out of the back. So this time I'll be using that scalloped rectangle. The scallop and also the stitched rectangle die cuts are from Waffle flour. I've already stamped out the hat. Put some liquid adhesive on the back of this piece and adhere it more to the left of the card. I'm going to leave an opening in that lower right hand area for the sentiment and some more images. Already stamped out the sentiment. I will add some scrap pieces of cardstock to the right hand side where it goes off of the other layers. Put more liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it underneath the hat. Then I stamped out the hat again, this time with the Daydream ink, and I trimmed out the ribbon that goes around the hat and then the little bow. I'll just adhere it to the hat. So that way there could be 2 different colors for that hat. I have some more of the flowers, 2 in the small size, 1 in the larger, and then also several different leaves. And I used the coordinating dies to cut all of those out. I'll put the small flower in the upper left-hand corner, and the 2 other flowers will go underneath the sentiment in the lower right-hand corner. And I did speed this portion up quite a bit. Just adhering all of the leaves down first and then attaching the flowers on top. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I think this is my second favorite card. I love all the colors together. Now here's just a quick recap of the 14 cards I made using Pink & Main's April 2021 Crafty Courtyard kit. The theme is In the Garden. This kit is so much fun. I love the colors. I love this stamp set. It's perfect if you don't want to do any coloring. And even after making 14 cards, I still have 10 full sheets of this 6x6 paper and quite a few scraps. I could probably make another 14 cards using just the pattern paper that's left over. If you are interested in purchasing this kit, I do have links provided in the description box. This is a monthly kit, so quantities are always limited, so I would suggest not waiting. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.